Hello, my name is Dan Tricarico, and I've been asked by Aubrey Jones to make a very special video for Kennycia and her class of upcoming teachers. First of all, I want to tell you how proud I am of everybody because going into teaching is such an amazing endeavor and just one of the most important things I think that you can do. And how do I know that? Well, as you can see behind me, I'm a day-to-day in the classroom teacher, and I have been at my school in San Diego for 29 years, and I've loved almost every minute of it, and I think it's such an incredibly important job and just about the most important job on the planet. But it does come with its challenges, and it does come with its stressors, and Aubrey asked me to do this special video for Kennycia and her class to kind of talk about some practical, easy to use strategies to reduce stress so that you can thrive in the classroom and out of it. And why me? Well, I'll tell you. I wrote a book called The Zen Teacher, Creating Focus, Simplicity, and Tranquility in the Classroom. And I also wrote a book called Sanctuary, Self-Care Secrets for Stressed Out Teachers. So I've given this some thought. And when I thought about what I'd like to cover in this video, I thought probably the easiest thing to talk about and the easiest way for you to get a handle on what's going on and the best way to reduce your stress is to talk about what I call the 5 S's. And they are stillness, silence, space, subtraction, and slowing down. And I just want to kind of go through each of those individually and talk about why they might be important and how you can use them to reduce your stress and improve your success in and outside of the classroom. So let's start with number 1, which is stillness. Stillness is something, in fact, most of these are concepts that in our society we don't value. We are a go, go, go society. We're always having to be doing something. We have to be busier than the next person. It's become a status symbol. So the idea of stillness runs very counter to what the value system of our society is. And yet it's such an incredibly powerful way to reduce stress. If you can find some time in your day, even 5 minutes, to just quiet yourself and sit still, it can really reduce the stress. It can really be a powerful way to get back in tune with what's happening right now in a mindful way, so you're not worried about the future, you're not worried about the things that have already happened in the past, but you are just focusing on the present moment. So stillness is an incredibly important concept. Similarly is the idea of silence. Again, silence is not something that we value in our society. I noticed recently, and I think it's this way in most places, that whenever I go out to eat at a restaurant, somebody decided that no matter what the restaurant is, there should be 6 or 7 televisions going at all times, right? And I'm like, who decided that? Who decided that I want to be watching TV every place I go to eat? Maybe in a sports bar it makes sense, but one of my favorite restaurants to go to in my neighborhood is a little Thai restaurant where way in the back by the bar they have a little television going, but everywhere else it's just quiet, it's peaceful. There is a little fountain that has kind of a bubbling serenity fountain kind of vibe to it, and it's just lovely, and it's one of my favorite restaurants because I can appreciate that silence. And another way that I've learned to appreciate silence is driving to and from work. I love listening to the radio. I still have a CD player. I stream things on my computer, but in the car I still have a CD player. And I love playing music. But it occurred to me that I don't always have to play music. And if you're looking for a place in your life to introduce silence, just on a commute that you have, just turn the radio off. And then you have this nice bubble of silence during that drive to and from your destination. And that's just a super simple way to create silence. I will also create silence here in my classroom on what we call our prep period, where I don't have any students, but I'm doing work, or I'm making phone calls, or I'm creating lessons, or whatever it is that I'm doing. I sometimes will just take some time and come sit here at my desk, and I will do a little meditation, I will do a little slow breathing, and I just won't have any noise. I just will have silence. Another good way to introduce some silence is when you're driving to either to or from school, is before you get to that destination, either the school or your house, is just pull off by the side of the road for 5 minutes and just sit in the car and look at the trees or pull over by a park and do some meditation, do some breathing, and you can really just benefit from the rejuvenation and the restorative benefits of that silence that you're choosing to take. But like all of these concepts, silence has to be an incredibly intentional plan. It has to be by choice. In this day and age, with our culture the way it is, it's not just going to happen. You have to plan it, you have to schedule it, you have to decide and make the choice that it's going to happen. So the first two are stillness and silence. The next one is space. And I have a couple thoughts about space. I'm sure you all know what a multi-billion-dollar industry the storage unit facility industry is. We have so much stuff that we will pay somebody to kind of house our stuff and pay monthly $50, $75, $100 a month just to keep our stuff, and we don't even know what that stuff is. If you have a storage unit, and I'm not throwing stones because I've had storage units in my life where I had to pay money just to keep all my junk and I didn't know what junk was there, I'll bet you don't know what's even in that storage unit. That storage unit could be set on fire and you would not know what you lost. Okay? So my question then is, how important is that stuff, right? We have expanded beyond our living area to the point where we have all this junk that we don't need. So there's a couple of strategies that I want to recommend. One is I recommend, and I try to do this as much as possible, is throwing away 10 things every day for a week. Let's just start small. Let's have a tiny shift in our routine. And if you throw away 10 things, and by throw away I mean repurpose, recycle, donate, whatever that means to you, but it could also just be throwing away. If you do that for 7 days, you'll have discarded 70 items. And if you do that over time, think of all the space that you're going to be creating in your life. And not to get too woo-woo on you, but I totally believe that by creating space in our lives, it does create room and breathing room and wiggle room for the universe to bring us better things and newer things and more important things so that we can focus on our priorities, we can focus on our value system, and really magnetize the things into our life that are important to us that right now are being suffocated because we have all this clutter and all this junk just surrounding us. And if we were just to create that space, I feel better just thinking about it. And don't discount the idea of mental space too. Get rid of old mindsets, get rid of old philosophies, get rid of old ideas that just aren't serving you anymore. And don't forget cyberspace, okay? And I don't mean the internet, although that's part of it. For example, I tell people don't even look in my Google Drive because it's a nightmare. It's an abyss. It's just a gaping chasm of chaos because I didn't know when they gave it to me that how big it was and all the junk I would be receiving and that I needed to organize it. And so it's like, la, 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 I don't even look at it. I don't even want to go there. So how can you do that? Well, take 15 minutes a day and just start creating folders, just start organizing. Just today at lunch, some teachers and I were talking about how the desktop on the computer sometimes gets out of hand. And you need to intentionally take some time to create some folders and trash some things and organize so that you just have the room that you need. So there's all these different areas in your life. And I know it gets overwhelming. You look at your house, you look at the bedroom, you look at the living room, you look at your classroom, and you're like, even if you look at that crazy board behind me, what I could start doing, some of those things have been up there for 20 years, and I'm not even exaggerating. But what I could do is just start picking off different things here and there, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and before you know it, I've created a lot of space. What you can't see, I wanted it to be fairly visually interesting for you during this movie, but what you can't see is the rest of the room. And I'm not going to turn the camera around, but they painted my classroom over the summer. Fortunately, I didn't have a whole lot. Other teachers said, no, I'm not going to have my classroom painted because I don't want to take everything down because they've got tremendous amounts of things up. But I didn't have a lot, so I took it down. And right now, the walls are all bare. They're all white. It's very pristine. And I kind of like it. And I've been really dragging my feet on putting things back up on the wall. And I've been getting some resistance from the students. I've been getting some resistance from the other teachers. And I don't care. I like it the way it is. I like it very pristine. So don't go by what you see behind me. Although that's has its own place and is kind of fun too. But just think about doing tiny little changes. It can be overwhelming, and you don't need to do your whole house. You don't need to do the whole living room. You don't need to do the whole classroom. Start with one surface, start with one closet, start with one table. And I'll tell you a little trick that I learned a couple years ago is I used to just be so tired at the end of the day that I would just shut down my computer and leave and go home. And then I would come back in the morning and I would have to search through everything on the mess I left on my desk. And it just was this constant mess, this constant chaos on my desk. So now what I do is it only takes 5 minutes every day and I clean my desk. I just move everything out. I put things back where they belong. I throw things away. I stack papers. I clip them or I staple them. Whatever it needs, I straighten the books. Whatever needs to happen. I only want about 4 things on my desk. And when I come in the morning, I'm starting fresh. Yeah, it's a mess by the end of the day. And guess what? At the end of the day, I take 5 minutes and I get it back to sort of ground zero and zero inbox. And I can't do that with my email, but as far as my desk goes, it's one thing I can do that's not overwhelming, takes 5 minutes, but it makes me feel better, reduces my stress, and makes me feel like I'm starting fresh every morning. So creating space is an incredibly important way to lower your stress. The fourth one is subtraction. And I think probably the best example I can give you of this is the idea of Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs knew the importance of subtraction. Apple products are not the best products in the world because they have all the bells and whistles, but they do. But because he knew that really creating excellent products was the idea of taking stuff away, not adding more. So I took that philosophy and I applied it to my own life with amazing results. I look at my schedule, I look at the things I'm doing in my life, I look at the things that are important to me, and I say, what's not serving me? What do I not need anymore? And I get rid of it. And when I kind of dial back on what I'm doing and I subtract the things from my life, I have less to do, there's more white space on the calendar, I just have more breathing room, and the stress goes down. So ask yourself, look around at the areas of your life, work, home, relationships, family, and say, what can I subtract? How can I get things boiled down to their essence so that I'm only keeping what's necessary? So subtracting things is the key. Not adding more things to your plate, but taking things off. And I know that's hard in the 21st century, but I also know that you can do it. And finally, and this is probably the hardest one of all, is the idea of slowing down. We just move, like I said, in a go society that we have. We're always on the go. Kids these days have schedules that are out of control. Every last minute is scheduled. And I am a big proponent of white space on the calendar just so we can slow down. And what I like to do is I like to create margins and buffers, is what I call them, around the activities of the day. If I know that there are certain, get out of here, fly. If there are certain things that I have to do during the day, I will try, it's not always possible, but I will try on some days to schedule big margins of space around them so that they can take as long as they take. And what I mean by that is if I have to clean our guinea pig cage, which is my least favorite thing to do in the world, or if I have papers to grade, or if I have to clean the house, or if there's something that I need to do, and I create that buffer around it, I can be very relaxed and say, I don't need to be somewhere else by 5 o'clock. I have to get this done in 20 minutes. It's like it takes as long as it takes. And if I'm checking my phone, or I'm listening to music, or I'm adjusting my playset on my phone, or whatever it is, I'm not worried because I've created the margin and the buffer of time to let this one chore that I have take as long as it takes. So again, you can't do that all the time, but when you can, it's a glorious gift to give yourself. So just as a review, you have the 5 S's. You have stillness, you have silence, you have space, you have subtraction, and you have slowing down. So whenever you feel the stress starting to rise and the anxiety, the tension starting to creep up, you can kind of review those and go, which one do I really need right now to reduce the stress in this situation? And pick one of them and do a couple things that will address that issue, and I guarantee you the stress will go down. Well, I hope that serves you. I hope that helps out. I'm sorry, I can't tell if you can see the fly buzzing around, but he's been driving me nuts the whole time. But you know what? I'm just in the moment, and it's okay, and that's the zen of it. And it's been lovely talking to you. I want to thank Aubrey for asking me to make this video. I want to thank Felicia for all the work that she's doing for education and for the future of education with you up and coming teacher candidates. And I want to tell the teacher candidates, super important. Some of you probably have 30 years to go. I'm in year 39. I don't have that long. Some of you have 30 years to go, and we need you, so make sure you take care of yourself. I'm Dan, and oh, by the way, you can always check out my website, www.thezenteacher.com. I have a blog. I've been blogging for about 4 years. There are tons of posts and articles about different strategies for self-care and stress reduction that I want you to check out so that they can help you on your journey. Okay? Take care, and I'll if you have any questions, reach out, and I'll talk to you later, and have a good day. Thanks. Bye-bye.